We got real football games to talk about now, y'all. College football season, 11 days away. We have actual games to talk about. And we understand this. Different games mean different things to different teams, if you're tracking with me right there. And I think when we look at the college football slate for 2023, we need to circle, underline, star, which games are going to be considered statement games for different teams. And I had one of you actually reach out to me this morning via my Instagram and said, hey, Texas at Bama. JD, you're about to tell me that Bama is going to run all over Texas, and I don't want to hear that. Texas is a different operation this coming season. Pipe down. And I was like, one, this fires me up because I got one of y'all already knowing what the segments are going to be this coming, I guess, Tuesday. It was in a few hours from when we were about to go live, so you already checked the headline. You were like, let's roll. So thank you for that. The other part of that was, hey, we haven't done the segment yet. Let's talk about this a little bit. Texas at Bama, though, no way around it. It 1,000,000% is a statement game for both teams because the public thinks that Texas is kind of trending up, right? You're probably buying stock in Texas right now. The majority of you, or from what I can tell, are buying stock in Texas unless you're a fan of another Big 12 team or you're a Norman, Oklahoma. Maybe you're an Alabama fan. Texas is trending up right now, is the public opinion. A lot of people are on the other side of things when it comes to Alabama. Nick Saban this, Nick Saban that. They don't even have a quarterback. Nobody's coming back. They lost Will Anderson. They lost Bryce Young. So people are seeing Bama kind of going this way. Now, if Texas were to win this game, the statement is, I don't know if it's like a program-defining win for Texas, but it at the very least provides proof of concept for what we've believed about Texas for a long time. Like, we've always thought Texas is super talented, can score a lot of points, but it's very different to do that against a team like Oklahoma when they were kind of limping in the Red River game last year, than to go do it at Tuscaloosa against the standard in college football over the last 10 to 15 years against Nick Saban. Like, that would send a very different message to the entire college football world. There is not going to be a tougher opponent or a more difficult environment on Texas's schedule the rest of the way. Just no way. Bryant-Denny Stadium at night? Are you kidding me? That's not to dunk on anybody else in the Pac-12, or in the Big 12 rather. I'm just saying, I think Texas, if they were to win this game, this puts a lot more respect on their name. Also, it proves that they have the chops to compete at that college football playoff tier, in my humble opinion. Now, I want to be careful for us not to define Texas from this game, but at the very least, if they were to win, it would legitimize a lot of what we said about Texas over the past couple of months, right? Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're locked in. Thank you so much. All right, now if Alabama were to win, it would feel a lot like a reminder, wouldn't it? It would feel like Nick Saban just kind of crossing his arms, sitting back in his chair and just saying, y'all really fell for that all off season? You really thought that we were done? Thought I was going to pack it up? Really? The eye test matters a little bit here with Alabama. If they win by 2 scores, message sent. Message sent, message received. If Bama rolls out and scores 14 points, I believe the line right now is like Bama -7. But if they go ahead and just do what they were supposed to do last year, according to that line in Austin, Texas, and win by 14 plus, like, okay, we got to recalibrate what people are saying about Alabama right now. Now, personally, I think if Alabama wins this game by 1 or by 41, I think that's a big deal. Because if Bama were to win this game, it means a couple of things. It means, one, they fixed what was wrong last year in the secondary. If you watched the first half of that game where Quinn Ewers was playing darts with the Alabama defense, it was put the ball up to your big tight end, Jatavian Sanders, put the ball up to Xavier Worthy, and if they don't come down with it, you probably got somebody tugging on a jersey and we get some laundry on the field. That's a free first down. Like, they kind of panicked when the ball was in the air last year at Alabama. If they're going to be able to beat Texas this coming season, that's been fixed is the first part. Also, it means that the offensive strategy for Alabama, everybody's kind of saying the sky is falling with no quarterback and, what's Tommy Rees going to do? Is that really who you want to be your OC? It means that they were able to outscore Texas, obviously by winning the game, or it means, I guess in addition to, it would mean that Alabama controlled the game and found a way to circumnavigate keeping Ewers off the field and Steve Sarkisian from doing what he does with the playbook. Because y'all that watch the show, we think Steve Sarkisian is a bona fide wizard when it comes to offensive football. So big statement game for both teams. There is no way around it. Now, let's fast forward the tape a little bit here to week 4 of the college football season. We got Florida State going to Clemson, South Carolina, to play the Clemson Tigers. And who is the class of the ACC is probably what we're going to figure out in this game as it stands right now in August, what we're predicting will kind of be the way this whole thing shakes out. For Florida State, man, there's no way around this. If you want to be the top dog, if you want to be that team that hoists the ACC trophy and competes for a college football playoff and does all the things that we're talking about you doing right now, you got to beat the top dog. 7 of the last 8 years, Clemson has been the top dog. Top tiger, more or less, within the ACC. There is no glaring reason why Florida State can't do this, and I think that's what adds pressure. It'd be one thing if Florida State rolls out there and it's like, hey, man, they're kind of building to this. They're still trying to figure it out. You know, hey, it's Mike Norvell's first year. Give us a break. Like, that's not the situation you're in right now. Experienced head coach. I mean, most returning production in college football, not even counting the transfers that you brought in. This is supposed to be the year for Florida State. And let's kind of add a subplot here. Let's say Florida State, and Florida State fans, you're not going to like this, so cover your ears. Let's say Florida State somehow, some way loses to LSU in the opener. This game is Florida State's season. Everything you want to do with the college football playoff and all that, like, this is that game that would define that. Now, you could drop this game and still win the ACC if you lost to LSU, but this is not the way that you want your season to go. You're not living in that world. So, extremely big statement game for Florida State to really just kind of prove that they are who we've been talking about they are. To quote the great late Dennis Green, they are who we thought they were. We're going to find out with Florida State in this game, in my humble opinion. Big statement game for the Noles. Now, Clemson, this one has an interesting context to it. Think about what Florida State has done to build their roster. And I credit Mike Norvell with this wholeheartedly. I have no issue with this. But think about how they've done it. A lot of work through the portal, right? People say things about Florida State and where they stand on an NIL perspective. Then you look at Clemson. And I'm not here to make any sort of statement on NIL for Clemson because, quite frankly, I don't know exactly where they stand. I have a hard time believing they're not involved in that, but they have sort of taken the other approach, or rather publicly not steered as much towards the NIL lane as Florida State has. But more specifically, they have not really used the portal. They're taking a guy here, a guy there, a guy they're familiar with, but they're really not a portal team, whereas Florida State kind of rebuilt that thing through the portal. For Clemson, I think it's your way, the way that you have stuck to, for better or for worse, versus their way. And you would like to prove, you would like to make the statement in this game that your way worked, that you made it happen, that you stuck to your guns, you stuck to your process if you're Dabo Swinney, and you got it done. And I think you would like to make sure everybody knows, hey, there may be a day where Clemson's not atop the ACC. There may be a day where y'all knock little old Clemson off the top of the mountain, but not yet. Not yet. Now, again, I think we get this game in the ACC title. I've already made my prediction on that, and y'all that have tuned in for any length of time, you know that. But I'm just saying, let's keep an eye on this one because there's some statements to be made with both those teams. Next statement game I want to talk about here, we go to Week 8. This probably will be the game of the year in the Big Ten to that point in the season. I know we got Ohio State, Michigan at the end of the year, but we got Penn State going to Columbus, Ohio to play the Buckeyes. This game has no shortage of storylines, but think about the way that we have perceived Penn State the entirety of this offseason. Hey, they're really deep on defense. James Franklin says they have a chance to be better on the offensive line. Hey, they got Abdul Carter, a super sophomore. Nick Singleton, Katron Allen. Like, you know all the buzzword players we're talking about. Leading all the way up to Drew Aller, 5-star quarterback, going to change the game for Penn State. That's how we've talked about it. We've talked about them having a better chance to compete nationally for a Big Ten title, for the college football playoff berth, based on what they have in-house there now. And so for Penn State, if they were to win this game, the feeling would be like, hey, we have arrived. We have arrived. The last time they won the Big Ten, I don't think it's any coincidence that it coincides with their last win against Ohio State, and that was in 2016. You win this game, which is this is the first real test for Penn State now. Make no mistake about it. The question is, can you beat Ohio State and Michigan? And this is the first test they get. This would legitimize all of their college football playoff buzz they've had the entirety of this offseason. There's no asterisk now this time for Penn State when they go to Ohio State. There's no, oh, but it was a whiteout game. Oh, but our quarterback was, no. You got the quarterback. It's on the road. You win this game. You send a statement loud and clear like, hey, we are for real. You got to deal with Penn State in the Big Ten race. on the other side of things, though, for Ohio State, if you were to win this game, it removes the question of, well, where do they stand in the Big Ten? Because there's so much about Ryan Day losing to Michigan twice, and they have a new quarterback and all that. Like, if you win this game, there's no more like, oh, Penn State's gaining on them. And I don't know what the final score of this game is going to be. Obviously, if I did, I'd put some money down in Vegas. But if they were to win this kind of game, I think it's just validation for Ryan Day that, okay, Ohio State is that top 2 level in the Big Ten. We once again realized that in 2023. Also would have to be validation for whoever he picks to be his starting quarterback. Because at the time of us being live, he is yet to name a starter. I think he's going to do that here pretty soon. But whether it's Devin Brown or Kyle McCord, this is the kind of game that you need good quarterback play in. Just period, the end. You need good quarterback play to beat Penn State this coming season. Because I think Drew Aller is going to put the pressure on Ohio State. If nothing else, that run game will put pressure on Ohio State. You will have to score points. You will have to have a capable quarterback show up in this game. So if you win it, you got to feel pretty good about whoever you rode with if you're Ryan Day. Now, we're going to stay in that same week. Utah goes to USC. I really hope this is at a reasonable hour. I hope this isn't one that a lot of people miss because it's like a 10 Eastern kick in the Coliseum. Like, I'll tell you this. There's a lot made about LA and about what they don't have on the college football side of things from a passion standpoint. I can say this from going to several games growing up in the Southern California area. When they have a big-time matchup and there is the buy-in that is credible because of how the team is playing, and that's the way that USC is playing right now. I mean, they're a national story right now with Caleb Williams. The Coliseum is a special place to be, man. It's a special venue. That place gets rocking. The student body is bought in. That's how I expect it to be for this game. For USC. For Utah, though, if they were to win this game, it'd be the silencer. It would be the absolute silencer on all the noise, all the talking about USC, about other teams, and Utah and Cam Rising. It would just be silence. No more of that. We did it twice last year. We did it twice. We beat USC at our place. Then we ran through them in the Pac-12 title game. And people are saying, oh, but that was at home the first time. Oh, but there was no Caleb Williams, no 100% Caleb Williams really in the Pac-12 title game. You go and do it in the Coliseum, in that environment I just described, against, you hope and pray, fingers crossed, I think for both fan bases, you get a healthy Caleb Williams. No more questions, Your Honor. No more questions. We're done here. Yes, we're still that team if we're Utah. That's what we're saying coming out of this game, should you handle business against USC and Los Angeles. Now, but for USC, if you win this game, the statement is, this isn't the USC that y'all talked about all spring and summer. All spring and summer, all we heard, yeah, Caleb Williams, super special, but the defense, so soft. Missed so many tackles. All the Tulane jokes, all the Lincoln Riley can't win the big one, all that. Like, I don't know if you totally answered the Lincoln Riley can't win the big one questions. I think you probably have your sights set on that this coming season. But if you take care of business in this game, shows that, okay, we can play that style. Because Utah, they're going to play bully ball. We already know it. They're going to try and do what they did to y'all last year in the Pac-12 title game, which was just play battering ram kind of football between the tackles and make you say uncle. And if USC holds up against that, that raises a lot of eyebrows across the country. Because you know who else would see that? Other teams that they would probably see in the college football playoff. Teams like a Michigan, teams like a Georgia, heck, teams like a Alabama. You put this on tape, your tape is your resume. You feel a lot better about where your resume stands for USC when it comes to the college football playoff selection game. All right? They would love to make the statement that, oh, yeah, we got that part figured out too. Yeah, we got Bear Alexander. Yeah, Corey Foreman, he came around. Yeah, Jack Sullivan, he's a guy for us. Anthony Lucas, yeah, he showed up on the defensive line. We can hold serve now on the trenches side of things. Don't worry about us. We can play that game too. Paired with Caleb Williams, good things are happening in LA if that happens. So that's kind of where they stand right now. That's definitely a statement game. There's no way around it. Now, Georgia at Tennessee is the last statement game I want to talk about here. This could be for the SEC East. Second to last game of the year. You're in Neyland Stadium. For Georgia, though, this really is going to be the first chance for us to see them really flex up. I mean, you got the Ole Miss game. You got South Carolina early in the year. But I think this is the one that everybody has circled to see, what does Georgia have under the hood? Because it was kind of that game last year in Athens where everybody said, oh, okay, that's the Georgia team that we've kind of been looking for all year. Saw them in Atlanta against Oregon, but to do it against an SEC opponent, against a $1 million offense that they're running over there, scoring however many points a game, like looks like $1 million. Okay, that's the Georgia team we're going to see now. But this could be the game where they get to do that, because I think at this point in the year, you're going to have to score points to keep up with Tennessee. And I'm going to go ahead and assume it's Carson Beck starting for Georgia. This is going to be a really good litmus test for us on where the Dogs stand. Going to be a good chance for them to actually rev the engine, open it up, and see how they hold up on the defensive and on the offensive side of things, quite frankly. Now for Tennessee, let's just put ourselves in this world. How differently do we talk about Tennessee if they beat Georgia? Think about how differently we talked about them last year after they beat Alabama. The brand power, it's already strong in Knoxville. It elevated quite a bit. You beat Georgia. You beat the back-to-back national champs. What are we saying about Tennessee? I think we definitely say, oh, they are for real in Knoxville. It wasn't just a nice one-year story. It wasn't just Hendon Hooker was there and Jalen Hyatt was there. Then they rode off into the sunset and fell back to mediocrity in Josh Heupel's third year in Knoxville. No. You're saying, whoa. Tennessee going forward is going to be a problem on the field each and every weekend. And you probably already feel that way a little bit across the college football public, but to slay the giant, take down the big dog, message loud and clear to the rest of the country. And this is kind of a part I want to slide in here. Think about what that does for them on the recruiting trail. At that point, think about how you can package that moment up. Forget the number of recruits that are probably at that game. Think about the recruits that are watching on television. You beat Georgia. Go and push that out to the masses and say, come play at Tennessee. Could be one of those moments that really does a lot for them on the recruiting trail should they win that game. So a lot of statement games, enormous impact all over the country, week in and week out. I can't wait for college football to be here. We're talking about actual games that are really not that far away. We're almost here. Hang on. We're almost there. We're almost there.
Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.